started when one night, for some wild reason, a few friends and I sat down to watch a movie. It was a movie that came out in 1994, an animated movie, an oldie but a goodie. The movie was Lion King. Some of you may think that this is a little immature, but I think a lot of Disney movies can actually teach you a lot. And it would probably benefit a lot of kids my age to be watching things like that instead of other stuff. And one popular phrase that can be taken from this movie and applied to life is Hakuna Matata. It means no worries for the rest of your days. These days, kids worry about toys and friends. Teens worry about what other people think of them. And adults worry about their kids and bills and how to pay for this and that. There's a lot of worrying that goes on, and that doesn't have to be the case. I've had plenty of things to worry about, and I'm sure you have too. But with sports, school, the FFA, and work at home, just managing my time has gotten me all through it. Starting in the FFA, middle school agriculture gave me a good taste of what was to expect. All the 8th graders every year have to listen to Mrs. Shree speak about how the biggest transition in your life is from middle school to high school. Well, this is one thing that I wasn't worried about at all. I grew up on a farm, so for ag class, I basically had a class at home every day. My Uncle Alan always said that I didn't have to take a shop class because I had one right at home, even though my teacher was a little shaky. I was an agriculture expert compared to those off the farm. My first contest in the FFA was forestry. I got the highest score on the team, and this brought out my competitiveness. I figured out that FFA was something that I could not only compete in just like a sport, but I was good at it too. FFA contests were perfect for merging not only my competitive. Worrying about things just causes stress. Sometimes I worry about competitions. I spend so much time studying weed pictures or crop seeds that it would just wear me down. Over one weekend, I remember memorizing all the cuts of meat from beef, pork, and lamb. And that's something that they spend a couple weeks on in Ag 3. But I had them down pat over one weekend. For sports, I think sports are great, but sometimes we forget why we even play them. Sports are supposed to be fun. I know a lot of people get nervous and worked up before games, but that doesn't have to be the case. I went to a basketball camp called Point Guard College, and they stressed how to embrace the feeling of nervousness. There's not a lot of other times when you get to feel as good or as nervous before a game. There's no other feeling like it. So don't let yourself get worked up by worrying if you're going to win or lose. I'm very competitive, but even I can step back and look at the big picture. Some of my fellow FFA members like to give me heck about a time at Madison Park. It was after forestry practice, and we were playing tag with the little kids around the playground, and they would always give me crap about how I wouldn't let this little kid tag me, and I guess that's a bit extreme. But another story is from 3-on-3 in first grade. On my team was Adam Klauser, Andrew Jansen, and Drew Witt, and we got 3rd place that year. And it didn't matter if it was 3rd, 2nd, 1st, or the toilet bowl. Getting that trophy was awesome. A little shiny trophy with basketball in 3rd place on it, and I was ecstatic. The next year, we lost our first losers bracket and won a few games, got past where we could reach the toilet bowl, but we didn't make it to the championship. And I cried and cried and cried because we didn't get the trophy. But the older I got, the less I valued winning these trophies. The actual hardware really meant nothing. And I can relate this to track as well. In middle school, you get ribbons for winning events, and they give ribbons up to like 6th place. So, and in high school, they give medals, and yeah, those are cool for a while. But after I went to state my freshman year, I realized that track maybe wasn't for me. We all know, if you've ever been to a track meet, there's always the one kid that lags behind. At state track meet, everyone really cares about running, and I really didn't. I was the kid who was lagging behind at the very end. And don't get me wrong, I was just running hard, but I just couldn't compete with all the other athletes. And I got the pity clap. Coming around that home stretch, people had to clap me home, and it was a little embarrassing. So after that, I gave up track and I decided just to focus on baseball. But as for worrying, in my time in the FFA, one person I didn't worry about much was Mrs. Luce. I definitely grew close to her from the start, and she was basically like my second mom. After getting back late from district proficiencies, I had to get up at 5 and get on a plane to meet my family in Colorado for a snow ski trip. And I let them both know when I got to the airport that I had made it safely, just in case they were both worried. I went to tons of contests and was always cleaning up her scraps at the table. By the time these contests got over, I'd be starving. And not only was I a growing boy, but I was also on a budget. I hated to see those pizza crusts go to waste. And if I was early in the mornings, I would just stop in and see what was going on. But before I get into the story of the water, I'll tell a story about another ornery fellow. This young man once spied his sister baking a blackberry cobbler. So he got his timing down. Before it was done, he snuck into the kitchen, stole the cobbler right out of the oven, raced wildly through the hall and to the car, locked himself in the car, and ate the entire thing with his sister watching, with what had to be the saddest, angriest face ever. This same kid in high school had a bone to pick with a new religion teacher. There was something about that teacher that he just didn't like. Let's just say the teacher ended up in the shower. Some of you may know this man, but probably not as well as I do. His name is Brian D. Strauss. I just had to share some of those stories to show where my honoriness came from. Back to the story of Miss Lucy and I. She kind of ended up getting a shower of some sorts too. It was a brisk February night, the night of the FFA Ag Olympics. Everyone was having a great time as usual, playing the famous ag pong with the prune juice and watching Carly Joe dominate the bale toss. But after our team won the sack race, a couple of us got the idea to swamp Miss Lucy with water like football teams do after a win. I remember her telling me how she spent the cold, wet, miserable ride home thinking of the best possible way to get revenge. So I'll tell my side of the story. The next day, I was called into the office. I didn't think anything bad was going to happen. Maybe I was running low on lunch money. Maybe they wanted to give me an award or something. I didn't think it was going to be anything bad. Mr. Dorothy called me in and started talking about the previous night and said something about pouring water on Miss Lucy, and I just laughed. He said, "So you think that's funny?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, I guess he didn't think it's funny, so he grabbed the handbook and turned to page 41 and mentioned assault on a teacher. Now I was worried. I thought, what have I done? He was reading off phrases like recommendation for expulsion, contact law enforcement, OSS. It was not looking good for me. But after a few minutes, and when Miss Lucy came in, I finally realized that it was all a joke, but I was definitely very scared for a few minutes. But worrying, it's just a waste of time. You lose focus, and you're not going to change the outcome by worrying. You think if there was a frost forecasted and all the farmers got up every couple hours to look outside, you think it wouldn't get as cold? Or you think, I think farmers as well as anyone know that Mother Nature is just going to run her course. But if you spend more time worrying, you're going to spend more time thinking about things that could go wrong rather than go right. I saw a poster once, a baseball poster, that said, how can you hit the ball if you're thinking about all the possible ways you can miss? If you're worried about that pitcher throwing you a curveball, fastball, the high heat, or how much the umpire is blind, there's no way you're going to be able to hit it. In the end, no matter what situation you're in, you have to realize that everything is going to be okay. One thing that is very assuring for me is that I know the good Lord is watching over me. My confirmation verse is Psalm 23, which includes this: even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Benjamin Franklin even called himself food for worms in his epitaph. He wasn't worried about dying. He knew how he was going to end up, and that's a fact for everyone. 100 years from now, probably everyone in here is going to be food for worms. It's a scary thought for some, but you can't avoid the inevitable. To wrap things up, basically I have two choices. You can worry, or you can not worry. In the process of worrying, you lose valuable time for no reason. You cause yourself stress, and you miss more important things that are happening. FFA members, I encourage you to get involved in the FFA. Go to events. Don't worry if you've never done it or if you're not good at it. Participate in contests. You never know, it might even spark interest and lead you to a future career. Parents, cherish these moments. You know more than anyone how fast times go. Look at your hair color compared to 15 years ago. And guests here, continue to be charitable. Continue to donate your time for young people, because they are the future. My message for all of you here tonight is to enjoy life while it's happening. And don't worry about trivial things. Hakuna Matata. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Bill Keane. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. And today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. Thank you.